All right. All yours, my friends.
Oh, thank you so much, Travis. Um, and I want to say good morning to everyone, and I want to welcome everyone for being here. Wow, what a great group! I see some familiar faces, and I see some strangers, which makes me all the more happy. The fact that you and I share an interest or curiosity for working with older adults and substance use. That makes my heart very happy. Let me take a moment and introduce myself. My name is Ed Havlovic. I'm a New York CARC, recovery coach, professional, and facilitator. I'm also a New York Certification Board trainer registry member. And it's my great pleasure to be able to talk to you today about one of my favorite topics. But before I do that, I am not flying solo this morning. I am here with my co-pilot, and I am going to ask Reggie to take a second to introduce himself.
Good morning. I'm Reggie James. Ed and I do a lot of training together over the years. Uh, I'm also a recovery coach, facilitator, and a member of the New York City Training Board. I'm also the founder of Revision Inc., which is a coaching and facilitation company. And Revision House is a 10-bed, and that's in New York. And in New Jersey, in Jersey City, we have Revision House LLC, which is a 10-bed cooperative sober living facility, licensed by the state. And we also contract with Hudson County's reintegration program. So we house men that are coming from the county jail and that have substance use and mental health issues. As I was saying to Travis, the work that we do, that we all do, is because we love it. I would do this work if I didn't get paid. If I was independently wealthy, I would love to do work like this, but because I'm not, I have to do good and do well at the same time, So I see on the panel here, part of our audience, two of my favorite people, Ruth Reddick and Lila Boyer. I have to say hello to them, because they helped shape me and guide me, especially Ruth, in my journey. And Lila, or better known as Coach B, is, also a star in this business. So looking forward to this presentation and interacting and getting to know you.
Very, very good. Thank you, Reggie. Ruth, you do have your hand up. I wanted to acknowledge that. Did you want to say something?
Thanks, Ed. I was just waving at everybody this morning. It's such a treat to be with you and Reggie and Travis and the whole CCAR community here on a webinar that honors Art Woodward and the giants who created this pathway and this opportunity for us. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, Ruth. You said that so nicely. It is an honor to be here as part of the webinar series. And thank you all for being and joining us this morning. So let's get started. We're going to be talking about older adults, so I thought it's always a good thing to get all of our heads together on the same page, so we're talking about the same things. So let's kick it off with what is an older adult? How do we define an older adult? Well, if we look at the definition, it varies, but generally it's considered to be someone of a certain age. So let's look at some examples. The work around the world with the United Nations defines an older person simply as being 60 or 65 years of age or older. The National Institute on Aging describes an older adults as people aged 65 or older. Wow, similarities. Well, let's continue. Here in the US, the Medicare traditionally defines the elderly population as those people age, 65 and older. So I think we have some similarities here. Older adults are people typically 65 and older. But wait a minute, that doesn't solve the age-old problem. How do we refer to these individuals? How do we talk to them? Do we call them elderly people? Do not call me a senior citizen. Old people. Hey, I was a baby boomer back in my early teens. Do I still consider myself a baby boomer? I'm in my 70s. Oh, please don't call me a geriatric, a pensioner. An old timer? No, 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 no. Oh, gee. Even sometimes culturally or regionally, we refer to ourselves in ways that other people may not be familiar with. My friend Reggie refers to himself as an OG. Reggie, what is an OG?
Okay, so I don't refer to myself as that, but other people refer to me as that,
Well,
which
that's
is
pretty nice.
it's kind of a complimentary slang that they use in the Black community.
Right.
When the guys in the street see you, and they look at you and they say, "Hey, OG, how you doing?" You know, it's usually said with respect. Yeah. So we don't look at that as a put down at all.
Very good. Thanks, Reggie. And often, hey, if Reggie can be referred to as an OG, I and my family may refer to me as an OTP. Now, you're wondering, OTP, what is that? I grew up on a farm in the Midwest from a very large family. My father always, when he retired, referred to himself as OTP, meaning out to pasture. And it was simple as that. And it was a very loving and kind way that he referred to himself. Don't worry about me. I'm out to pasture. Don't bother me. And he loved being out to pasture and having the time for himself. Whatever and however we use the terms, we should always be respectful. We should also be mindful that some terms can be ageist, demeaning, and stigmatizing. Nobody likes to think of themselves as an old person or elderly or senior or worse yet, geriatric or very old. These labels often can carry what we refer to as a feebleness or dependency. A little secret, no older adult ever wants to lose their self-dependency. So we're understanding that names and labels matter. Take a look at this chart here. The Institute for Public Health did some surveys asking older adults how do they like to be referred to? What terminologies do they feel positive towards and what do they feel negative towards? If we look here, the two most possible terms that they react to favorably are, on the left here in the blue column, mature adults and older adults. Let's look on the far right in the red columns. The worst that you can refer to them and things would be the elderly, golden agers, elders, senior citizens, or seniors. So for this reason, can we all jump on board to understand that older adults are usually typically 65 and older? And we refer to them by the term older adults because it is the least offensive to older adults. And we also want to recognize that every older adult, and there are over 70 million of older adults here in the US, that we also want to make sure that we are there listening and acknowledging them. Any questions so far? So let's jump further then. Who are older adults? If you close your eyes and you think of an older adult, your favorite older adult, who is it? What is that person's characteristics? How do they behave? Why are they so special in your mind? We're special in your mind because we're more than just a defining number or label. We are someone's grandparent. We're someone's great-grandparent. We're someone's husband or someone's wife. We are fathers, we're mothers. or we're simply just someone's brother and sister or uncle, or someone's cousin, friend. Maybe we're someone's neighbor. We are not just a blank face walking the streets, unrecognized. We have history, we have soul, we have family. We are individuals deserving of recognition, respect, and care. And I think that's why we're here today, to help begin to recognize the needs of a generation that is quickly growing. To find out who we are, sometimes it's important to find out who we don't want to be. There are myths and misconceptions of older adults and substance use. I call it the M&Ms. And if you're working with older adults, you probably have your own M&Ms that you have come to recognize. What are some of these M&Ms that we might be able to identify in our work with older adults in recovery? I'm going to share some statements, and I want you to ask yourself, is this an M&M? Is this a myth or misconception, or is this truth? Or maybe it's a combination. Here's the first one. Tell me what you think. Family members of older adults typically engage and show a keen interest in the healthcare needs of their parents. Wow, M&M or truth? For some, it could be truth. And those are the fortunate ones, older adults. But for many of us, our family may be across the country on the other coast. They may be in another country. They may have passed away. I may be alone. Who is taking a keen interest in my healthcare needs? So often it can be a myth or misconception. How about this one? Historically, older adults have not been identified as having an SUD. Therefore, really, screening for substance use may not be essential or necessary. Well, that may be years ago, thinking, but thinking can change because of what is happening. And you're going to be surprised, I think, to find out some of the things that is happening, and we'll talk about those things. Older adults tend to be open and will provide accurate and honest responses to all health-related questions and inquiries. Look, we may be losing our hair, we may be losing our hearing, we may be losing a lot of things, but we do not lose our sense of pride. And for us to discuss our weaknesses and our failures in life is not something that we readily want to do. Recognizing an older adult who is experiencing a SUD is relatively straightforward. Is it? So many times we have coexisting disorders, and many of the times they're masked, the real situations. So I think you'll find out that recognizing SUD in older adults is difficult. And substance use disorder in older adults is often challenging to treat. So it just might be more beneficial, you know what, to let them enjoy their remaining time. When I heard and saw this myth and misconception, it broke my heart. Why? It broke my heart because this tells me the older adult has given up. And even more sad, it tells me that his family has given up on him as well, or her. So let's explore these myths and misconceptions a little more today. Reggie and I are going to take you through a series of slides, and we hope that the learning objectives you might find today will be an understanding to the extent that substance use among older adults is happening. And it's not only alcohol, it's prescription drugs and illicit drugs. We're going to hopefully identify the life experiences which contribute to substance use among older adults. There are things that we experience, that we have experienced, that other people that work with us, younger people, have not any knowledge of. They've not experienced it yet. In peer life, we talk about lived experience. And as an older adult, I'm saying, but you haven't lived my experiences yet. How do you help me? How do I trust you? We're going to, learning objective 3, list the reasons that contribute to underdiagnosis, misdiagnosis, or co-occurring disorders. Number 4, we're going to identify or name chronic health problems impacted or exacerbated by the use of substances in older adults. And then last, hopefully we can explore some care and advocacy options for older adults. So you're all seated, buckle up your safety seatbelts. We're going to take off. So why are we here today? Why this concern? What is the concern? For the first time in history, adults 65 and older, me, we're now the fastest growing population group within the United States. The number of older adults is projected to increase from less than 10% of the global population from 2021 to around 17% by 2050. Huge jump. We'll need to address that sooner or later. With an estimate of how many? 70 million of us, the baby boomers generation is the second largest group after the children of our children, the millennials. And the millennials are those who were born from 1982 to 2000. Amazing how many of us are there existing. So now that the baby boomer generation born between 46 and 64 are between 61 and 79 years old now, our attitudes of alcohol and drug use have also changed. And usage among this group, the baby boomers, is actually growing for the first time within this demographic. So remember, going back to our myth and misconceptions that it's easy to diagnose, or why even screen for these individuals? Historically, well, it's changing. We should be screening and doing much more of it. So why should we concern? Let's talk about usage. I'm going to turn it over to Reggie, and he's going to share some information of how usage is impacting older adults.
Thanks, Ed. So let's turn it over. Let's break it down by substance. Let's talk about alcohol use a little bit. So binge drinking, okay? So the consumption of 4 or more drinks on the same occasion for females and 5 or more drinks on the same occasion for males on at least one day in the past 30 days. And the NIA, actually breaks it down a little more, National Institute of Alcohol Abuse, and they say within a 2-hour period. Heavy drinking means binge drinking for 5 or more days in the past 30 days. Okay, so which is worse? They're both pretty bad. There are 10 million older adults, which is 12.8% who engage in binge drinking in the past month, including 2.5 million who engage in heavy drinking. More than likely, males, do a lot more binge drinking than females. And older adults, males, do engage in heavier drinking. More than 1 in 7 adults, males, engage in binge drinking compared to 1 in 10 women. So why the concern? Well, let's move on to cannabis. So we have marijuana up there because that's what Hampshire gives us, but I think the politically correct word now is cannabis. And there are 9.5 million older adults who use illicit drugs in the past years, including 7.7 million who use cannabis and 1.8 that misuse opioids. And these statistics are from 21-22. So as we know, the legalization, I live in New Jersey and I'm in New York and New Jersey. So just in the last couple of years, both of those have been, deemed for recreational use. So you can believe that that number is much, much higher. Just talking to colleagues and associates, that didn't used to use, but now it's legal. So it's much more acceptable. Not just with younger people, but people, like a lot of older people. So older adults makes more than, it's more likely adult females have used marijuana in the past year, and 1 in 8 older adult males have used marijuana. So 1 in 8, and compared to about 1 in 13 of females. About 1 in 45 older adults misuse opioids. And that can be very easy because we take a lot more medication. And, if it's not working, or, for whatever reason. And remember, these statistics are for people that, that we see every day, your neighbors. Of course, there's disparities among different groups. Groups of color, LGBTQ, just like, everything else. So let's see, why? Okay, let's talk about the cannabis use. So how are people doing it? So most people smoke it because that's what they're used to doing when they were younger. Now, as we know, anything you're putting down your lungs is more detrimental. So I have minor COPD. So I haven't smoked a cigarette in over 20 years. And still, I have that. So can you imagine people that are going back to smoking, which is their normal usage? Even though there are a lot of so-called edibles out there now, a lot of people, older adults, aren't necessarily comfortable with that because that's not what they've done. So you can see the statistics here of people that vape, people that take edibles. It's, again, this is back in 21, 22. This is 25. And just the last couple of years in this area, it's been legalized.
Reggie, can I jump in?
Sure.
What is your feelings with the legalization and the cannabis shops, et cetera, both in New York State and New Jersey? Do you have any idea of the consequences that it has on older adults and cannabis use?
All I can say, Ed, is that there were hardly any. I heard it was difficult to get licensing and what have you.
Right.
I live in a pretty upscale area. There are 2 right down the street.
Oh, wow.
Like within 5 minutes from me.
Okay.
And if I drive by, I see people, mostly young people, but I see older people there going in and what have you, and yeah. So I'm sure this is right across the board.
Yes. Thank you.
Summary of older adults, which is 60 or older. So among the adults among older adults, 1 in 8 used illicit drugs in the past year. 1 in 11 had a substance use disorder issue, and substance use with older people, particularly alcohol and prescription drugs, is becoming a growing problem in the United States. And when we talk about illicit drugs, we're talking about cannabis in some states, cocaine, heroin, hallucinogens, inhalants, methamphetamine, as well as the misuse of prescription drugs, which I think, would be a large amount. Substance use disorders are characterized by impairment caused by the recurring use of alcohol and other drugs. So let's talk about empathy. Why are we talking about older adults? To ask for your empathy? So real empathy is sometimes not insisting that it will be okay, but acknowledging that it's not okay. We acknowledge that things are okay for older adults, but a lot of times for a lot of them, a lot of us, they are not. A lot of times older adults are dismissed, marginalized, and they're absent from the table of decisions being made about them. In New York, as my colleagues here know, we say nothing about us without us. So, who are the baby boomers? I certainly am one. Baby boomers are a term from people that were born from 1946 to 64. And after World War II, there was a significant rise in births for obvious reasons. They are post-war generation who came into a period when there was an economic and population boom. The census estimates that there are over 70 million baby boomers. That is a lot of people. So, the baby boomers, then and now. The demographic we were the highest substance use generation ever. So,
Wow.
you could see why people would go back, And a lot of people that were, stopped using when they were, hit their 30s, now the kids are gone. And they say, hey, why not? They're not here, by myself. I want to have fun. I want to just live the rest of my life out and enjoy it. One of the problems is that these things don't metabolize in our body like when we were young. And, again, most boomers are on medication. So life-shaping events, here's a list of different things that happened during the boomers' lifespan that impacted, them. We were always rebellious, always restless. And this is a partial list of events. We can remember all the news media about the assassinations, about the campus uprisings, and, so many different movements that had happened. So why do older adults, consume alcohol? I mean, that's an easy thing to answer, okay? A lot of people, they like the taste. Can we move on to the next slide? Thank you. And just just socialization. People want to be sociable. Alcohol is definitely the most acceptable substance there is. It's hard to go anywhere and, where there's alcohol served and people are not gathered around the bar. When I go out to, for a meal, dinner, there are a number of older adults and, most of them are having a drink. I don't know how many are on medication, but you can believe it's a number of them. It also is just a nice way to relax. 13% say it's part of their routine. Some it's, to deal with stress or to help, sometimes you just want to change your mood. It can be depressing, being older and not seen. And also just out of boredom, loneliness, and of course, pain, because a lot of us, I move around a lot. I'm pretty athletic, but I still can't get rid of the pain. Probably have a lot less than I normally would have if I didn't, but it's a reality. I'm going to turn this back over to my partner here, Ed.
Thank you, Reggie. Wow, I'm looking at your list of why older adults consume alcohol. It's based on the University of Michigan's National Poll on Healthy Aging. They interviewed older adults aged 50 to 80 about why do they drink. But this is not just for older adults. It seems like everyone or anyone could be listing these reasons for drinking. But I think what strikes me, the reasons expressed by older adults is that very first one, liking the taste and to be social are the two largest reasons. Now, how many older adults do you find to be highly sociable beings if they're living in a subsidized or adult living facility, a nursing home, or things of that nature? Usually that to be social reason, they're usually being social by themselves, which adds to the problem many times. I just found that interesting. Well, we're looking at these reasons, but you know what? There's other reasons that we as older adults use alcohol and substances. Not only the same reasons that other people do, but we use alcohol and substances to cope with traumatic feelings and experiences or emotions brought on by our life experiences. And let's go back here. You listed some amazing reasons here that shaped our events in these, 25 years, 30 years? Not only did we have the first nuclear power plant, I still remember hiding under my desk in grade school for the Cuban Missile Crisis. It was like we're all going to just be destroyed. How sad was to learn not only did Martin Luther King, but that same year, President JFK, the question was always, do you remember where you were when JFK died or Martin Luther King died in 1968? But Martin Luther King led the March on Washington, D.C. in the same year. There were other things, the Civil Rights Act. I still know two of my brothers being sent over to Vietnam. I remember my mom just crying every day, hoping that her sons would return. They both did, but one returned with severe consequences as a result of the Vietnam War. Where would we be without now the National Organization for Women? That was a huge, the American Indian movement. Not only Martin Luther King in 68, but Robert Kennedy assassinated as well. And then who would forget the 1970 Kent State University shootings? Or even earlier, Tim Larry and Drop In, Drop Out, this whole psychedelic revelation. I mean, it's amazing that we as kids during those years survived at all with all of the unrest. But it also understands why we're so feisty why we are just so determined not to give up, but it also was a time where we medicated our feelings. And it's something as older adults now that we know so well. So let's jump ahead. What are life experiences that many other people who are younger than us have not experienced yet that contribute to our use of alcohol and substances? We're now retired. We're on a fixed income. We worry. That's what we do. We have lots of time to worry. Loss of loved ones and friends disappear. They were everything to us. And now we fend for our own. It creates loneliness and isolation. That's another reason that we can use substances. Depression sets in. And when we use substances, that depression is exacerbated. Health issues, chronic pain in ways that we've never experienced before, contributing and affecting Alzheimer's, dementia. So instead of addressing these causes, these traumatic life experiences, many older adults simply resume to what we know so well. We use alcohol and drugs to cope with our fears and our life changes. So let's look at these fears that impact us closer. Here's a quote from Robin Williams. I used to think that the worst thing in life was to end up alone. Well, it's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people who make you feel alone. Amazing quote from Robin Williams, who made millions and millions of people laugh and made them a part of and connected with them with humor. Here's a question, and feel free to unmute yourself and jump in. What are the most common fears of older adults when it comes to aging? What are the fears about getting old? What's the number one fear? Does anybody, or you can drop it in the, David, you want to jump in?
Sure. Limited experience because I'm a Gen Xer, but I've got plenty of, and I call them OG because they're OG. I have plenty of OG in my life. And the primary thing that I see is loneliness.
Ooh.
They are not, people don't engage them. People don't take, I spend time with my sister's father-in-law. Go play cribbage, hang out. He is a wealth of information, and it is awesome connecting to him. But people don't do that. And, as a youth and younger than me, we fill our heads with excuses on why we don't do it.
Right.
But they don't, the person, the OG, doesn't care why. It's the fact that you're not showing up. And when you lose connectivity, it is I think my experience with addiction, my experience with life, connection is the most powerful and most important human attribute that we do not celebrate, we don't encourage, and we don't push it. And that's my IMO, my opinion.
David, thank you. You said you're a millennial?
No, I'm a Gen Xer. I don't give
a Gen Xer.
I don't give a fuck.
Well, as a Gen Xer, you may be a Gen Xer on the inside, but your exterior is very much older adult. And for that, I am very grateful. And I want to say thank you for your thoughts. Next, we have Coach B. Your hands up. Jump in, please.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, great. No, I was thinking as you were doing the presentation that it is possible for a parent and a child to be a baby born.
Oh. Tell me
The
more,
second thing,
please.
yeah, because if that ranges from 46 to 64, that's a 20-year span.
Yes.
And sometimes people have children at the age of 18, 19, 20, 15, right?
Wow.
So
Yeah.
that could be in there too, right? That during the baby boomer age, a young person was raising a child and was still a child themselves.
Hmm.
The other thing that came up for me as you're presenting is why people might use drugs for sex,
Right.
for performance. I don't know, and we call it dirty old men. You know what I'm saying? Or Cuba or whatever, right? You know, we got Cialis and all kinds of stuff out there now, right? And one thing that we may not be thinking about is how those drugs um interact with their medication, their other medications and illicit drugs and over-the-counter drugs and all of those phenomena, right? The pharmacologies that are going on with that. But old people are still sexually active, right? And they may use a drug to stay in, to stay in business, so to speak, right? So I was thinking about that. And to your last part, and for your last part, I was thinking about, and this young man just spoke about it, dying. All their friends
Hmm.
are dying. So there's a sense of loss of connectivity because the group that they grew up with are dying out. And they may be the last one in their age group, their peer group, that's still there, that creates a different type of loneliness. So there's that loneliness of being disconnected from your family because your family ain't paying you no mind. And then there's that disconnect from your community, from your peers, people of your age bracket, right?
Yeah.
Dying out. And you may be the last in that group or the second to the last in that group. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I lost a number of friends in the last couple of years. And when I look around, I'm like, who's in my age bracket anymore? Right.
Wow.
So that's a different type of loneliness. So that's what I wanted to add to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Coach B. I'm looking through the chat, and Paige says one of the fears she's suggesting would be dying. I'm sure that is on our list too. Kevin says being a burden to others. Oh my God, that sense of pride, independency. I do not want to ever be a burden to someone. That death, mortality. Tunfitch had mentioned. Todd says being alone. AJ says being alone. Loss of independence. Thank you, everybody. Mary Ellen says lack of respect, not seen anymore. Oh my God. Robin Williams was right. It's not being alone, it's making me feel alone. And the worst thing you can do to make a person feel alone is not to acknowledge them. You know, we were talking about baby boomers. Social media used the baby boomer term to be a negative. And it's simply the term, and we'll come and look at it in a little bit. It simply means a baby boomer is to be dismissive of someone. Okay, boomer is the expression. Okay, boomer, we dismiss you. I don't have the time to explain it to you. You won't understand it, and therefore, you know what? Okay, boomer, and I'll walk on. So, also, I was not going to share.
Clarissa also has a hand up.
Oh, go ahead, jump in,
Mhm.
please.
Hi. You know what? You was talking about what older adults are afraid of, and I'm a booming baby. I'm an older adult, 66 years old, and right now I have a disability son who I take care of since he was 4, and he's been into the foster system. I just got him back in 2020. My fear is that he has a brother and sister who has their own life, who pays attention to more than their life than to getting connected with him. And my thing is, when I write out my will, who's going to take care of Clyde? We're going. And that's my fear, because they're too connected with their brother episodes. They don't know how to handle those episodes. I, on the other hand, know how to handle his episode, but I'm afraid that if they see him in the episode, they'll be scared and want to institutionalize him, which I choose not to do because I know how to deal with his episode because I'm with him 24/7. The more I try to talk to them and say, you have to be connected, even if it's through a chat or video call, and get to know him and bond with him, because I'm going to have to leave him with somebody. It's like nobody's hearing me. And that's my fear, and I need that. I remember when King died, and I remember being in school, and the school disrupting and discombobulated. Everybody was throwing things around. And the teacher telling me that your mother said your brother need to get you. She called him this. And I was just hiding under the desk, waiting for my brother Kenneth to come and get me. And then when
Yeah.
we got come and get me from school and coming out of school, it was chaotic all over. People was breaking down things, beating things. It was just crazy and chaotic. Yeah, I remember that. So yeah, that's my fear, that somebody who's older adult as myself have a disability, support, need.
Very good. Clarissa, I want to say thank you for being so vulnerable and open to express your fears. And I can assure
Can I
you,
say something,
yes, in one moment,
Mr. G?
G. In
All
one
right.
moment. I'll get to you, G. Clarissa, there are other people who can totally identify with you, and you have our support and prayers, and hopefully all of your fears will be alleviated with time. G. Scott, the floor is yours. By all means, jump in.
Yeah, I fear that older people, I think that they have a fear of the younger generation, and them not having control and not being able to how can I say function or deal with certain things like older people have done in the past. You feel me? So I feel like that some older people are scared of the younger generation nowadays because they're
Yes.
causing so much, chaos and doing so much damage to the world. You know what I mean? It's like they have no control and they need guidance. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
That's all I really wanted to say.
Gee, Scott, you're absolutely right. And we're going to be talking about this exact same thing in a little bit too. The challenges of being someone helping an older adult in substance use who is trying to understand experiences that they have never experienced themselves. But how do they understand that? And the importance of older adults to be able to open up, like the Clarissas of the world, to express their needs to those people in a brave and open way. So to
And
be
I'd just like
continued.
to say something
Sure.
regarding what Clarissa was saying. She was talking about how people, were throwing things and disruptive behavior. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people mischaracterize a riot for a rebellion, because people
Okay.
that have been denied services throughout their life and have been marginalized and left out of the picture, you know, when situations like this happen, you know, it's not that they want to riot, and, they want to rebel against the system, you know.
Very good.
One other thing I'd like to mention is, like yesterday or day before yesterday, I was coming into my parking garage, and I, live in a place where my garage is attached to my unit, and three of my neighbors were outside, and we're all in the same demographic, and I just, lowered my window, and I know all three of them, and greeted them, and they were saying they were having a discussion with, what they've gone through this year. I forgot the term they used, but one of them just lost her husband unexpectedly. I remember he just got a new Lexus and was saying it was the best car, vehicle he ever got. It was a hybrid, and how happy he was. And I was shocked. The other one, who's the condo board president, he had a heart attack. And the other one, and we were at their house not long ago, and right after that, his wife fell, and she fell twice. And because of that, and like our place is it's a triplex condo, they have to move because and they had no expectations of moving. And do they indulge? Do they drink? Yes, they do. I don't know if that was the cause of it, but these life unexpected tragedies happen, and a lot of people to soothe the pain, especially those that already indulge. They up it a little bit because you know getting old is not for wimps. Okay, it is a very difficult transition that one makes. That's all I
Yes.
wanted to say.
And I would also add this. Yes, getting old is not easy, but there's also something to remember. Recovery has no age limit.
Mhm.
Recovery has no age limit. Don't forget that. All right. Thank you for this conversation. I continue to be inspired and motivated when I hear you guys. So thank you. So what are the most common fears of older adults about aging? You guys are on the button. The first greatest fear is, please, I do not want to lose my self-independence. That fear of something as simple as ability to drive, having that mobility, something as simple as bathing and taking care of myself, whether it's cooking for myself, managing finances, another, losing control over my life. So that is uno numero one. What other fears are there? My deteriorating health. And Clarissa, you were talking about who will take care of your son should something happen to you. True, genuine fear. Chronic health conditions can lead to severe pain, disability, dementia. Dementia runs in my family, and I think my losing dependence is a fear, but it's driven by my fear of dementia will be that loss of my independence. Loneliness, it's a killer. I mean, the whole idea and the number one thing about recovery is connection, right? How do we strive for recovery when we drive this loneliness and isolation around ourselves? It's difficult to achieve recovery. So loneliness is a huge problem. Financial insecurity is another one. And then, of course, loss of life, death, the natural part of life, but we all worry about it. And the older we get, the more we dwell on things such as death or loss of our life. So I do want to say this, and Coach B brought up that you could have a parent and a child in the same baby boomer generation. People ask me, why did I get so involved with older adults? My whole life has been with older adults. Why? Because I am the second youngest of 15 children. My oldest sister will turn 96 in October. And my youngest brother will turn 68 in January. There's a span of like 29 years between my oldest sibling and my youngest. I was having a conversation with my younger brother the other week, and he said, "Oh, Ed, you're not old. Haven't you listened to our older brothers and sisters? No matter how old we are, I will be in my late 80s, my younger brother will be in his late 70s, and we will still be the two young ones that don't know anything." So he says, we're Toys R Us kids. We will never grow up because of our siblings. And that's when I started my true appreciation for older adults, because I lived with older adults my entire life. Moving on, and thank you for all your comments in the chat. Moving on, life changes can contribute to alcohol use among older adults. Declining health. The more that we age comes the risk of chronic health conditions, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cognitive decline, hearing loss, hair loss, health issues. They all lead to despair, and it makes us and forces us to consider our mortality. And those are not pleasant things to think about. So how do we cope with those life changes? Substances, loneliness. We all have our stories of loneliness. Drinking is a great way to socialize with ourselves. Loss and death. Quick story, since we're talking about personal things. My brother turns 91 tomorrow, and he lost his wife February 2nd. She was 8 years younger. They were married 63 years. My brother was a farmer. He lived on the farm his entire life. He could make any crop grow. He was amazing. My sister-in-law, his wife, did all of the housework, everything else, and she went and drove into town. It was a little town of 280 people, and she would open the bank, and she was a bank clerk. And so she took care of all of the house finances and taxes, and she did everything. She did the cooking and cleaning and everything else. My brother went into a panic after she passed away. He had no self-dependency, the inability to take care of himself. How do I cook? I asked him, did he learn how to do the laundry? He says, no, there's too many buttons. I'm not quite sure how to even do laundry. He gets a check or a bill, and he's calling up his son. I got a bill. What do I do? What do I do? How do I pay this? How do I take care of the banking? With the loss of his wife, he lost his self-dependency because she was everything for him. And it happened in just a snap. Now, thankfully, he has his 5 children who take turns assisting and taking care of his needs. But he's one of the fortunate ones. How many of us do not have that luxury? So,
And
yes,
just before we move, if we can go back to the other slide, you know,
you got it.
it's such an important such an important slide, because I was just thinking, since COVID, you know, during COVID, I remember my barber, you know, wasn't working. So my wife said, you should just cut off your hair, you know, like, because she was cutting my hair, and, you know, it wasn't turning out too well, right? And we try to keep a lot of humor in our relationship, but, you know, like, it got to a point where I said, you know, I think you're right. So I cut it real down, because it was only growing on the sides anyway. It really wasn't, you know, I was camouflaging everything by my haircuts to make it appear like I had more hair on the top, right? And then as time went on, I just accepted the fact that this, you know, isn't going to work out, and I just cut everything off. So I'm clean shaven, I'm cut off, and then people would see me and say, "Oh, well, you know, what happened?" And some would be gratuitous, and there was different comments. So I decided that, hey, you know what? I'm gonna grow a beard for the first time in my life, you know. So, you know, like, this is, you know, so you change your whole look. Now, how many hair products are there to, you know, for people losing hair, for people, you know, my hair was I always had gray specks in it and what have you, and the white specks. So that didn't bother me, but people didn't want their hair to change color, you know. I mean, this is very significant for some people as they're going through life, and the acceptance of this. And it can be traumatic to some people because they lived on their looks. Okay, that's why there's all these, you know, reversal of age cosmetics and situations out there, rather than
Right.
just acceptance of who you are. And a lot of that stress and the money people, paid to have these transformations and, plastic surgeries and, all of that.
Yes. So we have the last fixed incomes. So those are some of the life changes that contribute. We have, it's 11 o'clock. We have half an hour. We're going to want to move on, but I do want to
Can I chime in also?
quickly, yes, I want to quickly acknowledge the two hands. Go ahead. And then Coach B
Yeah.
afterwards.
Quickly, my mother passed away 15 years ago, and she was never known to be an alcohol or a drug user. I've been in recovery be 42 years, 41 years a few days ago, but I was 15 years ago. And she said something about being lonely, but she used snuff. Now, in the Black community, snuff. And I had nowhere to find it. So I called her sister down in Tennessee, and he told me about where to find her snuff. And she said, Mom, I said, Mom, what does it do for you? She said, Dwight, it's my company. And that said it all. That little can of snuff, that's my company.
Got you.
Yes.
Thank you. I hear you. Coach B, and then we're going to continue.
Unmute. Let me unmute you.
Yeah, that's what I was doing. Thanks
Okay.
a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, one of the things, Ed, that you said that touched me so much, right, is that in the older generation, the woman took care of the house. The man brought home the paycheck. The woman took care of the house. He brought home the bacon. She fried it. And sometimes because of roles or responsibilities, right? We
Yes.
don't know what the other person is doing. So communication is so important. But I live alone. And I live in a building where it's a walk-up building. And I've had some injuries that made me think about I need to move, as Reggie was talking about, right? I need to move just in case. But all of that is relevant. And I think the other piece that I wanted to add, if I don't lose my train of thought, is when we get older, Reggie was talking about the hair loss, right? So our appearance, we don't want to look like we're aging. The wrinkled skin, the sagging skin in different places, in different areas, right? And there's something about a new level of self-acceptance
Right.
that needs to be in place. And I remember a couple of years ago, I'm like, oh, I want to stay physically fit because I want to play with my grandkids. I want to have energy to play with my grandkids, right? And now the grandkids are of a certain age, right? They're 15, 16. I can't even keep up with them now. Now it's I want to stay healthy, right? So I can have a quality of life. And I grew up in a household with parents that took a lot of medication. And I think I had a hidden promise to myself that I would treat my body in such a way that I wouldn't have to take all of those medications when I got older.
Yeah, very good.
And I'm not knocking it, right? Because if I need it, I got to take it. But I didn't want my life to be dependent upon the quality of my life being dependent on medication. And I think for some people who get older, that is definitely an area of concern for them too, their quality of life.
Very good. Thank you, Coach B. I appreciate it.
And just one last thing. I was talking about hair loss for men. It's devastating for hair loss for women.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm going to take one more slide and then I'll throw it to you, Reggie. So the question is, we have these reasons why we're drinking. What is the National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism? What is their standards that one, if one drinks, should be drinking? For people who are 65 and over, those who are not taking medication, that's an important thing. 65 and older who do not take medication, are in good health, should never have more than 7 drinks per week. They also say that those 65 and over should consume no more than 3 drinks on any given day. And they're also recommending that anybody who suffers from major depression or taking medications, example, pain medications, should not consume or abstain completely. And if you do consume, it should be less than 3 or less than 7 drinks per week. So they're setting these very stringent. So my question is, what are we actually drinking? And here to tell you, I'm going to throw it over to Reggie with the University of Michigan National Poll on Healthy Aging Report. What are we drinking?
I saw
Reggie?
someone in the chat had mentioned about the University of Michigan National Poll.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is. It's the university. And below is the website link that will take you there. So, Reggie?
So men are much more likely than women to report drinking in the past year. And why is that?
Because
Can
women typically are more private about matters like that? I don't know.
I don't know. Can anybody answer that? Is it that it's unladylike? I don't know. What does
Stigma.
it?
It's stigma.
Stigma. Ah,
Stigma.
that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Joy has her hand up. Joy, do
Joy?
you want to jump in?
Women are brought up in society to have everything together. We're not allowed to actually admit that we have a problem because we are the sole factor of a family, and it's considered a shame if a woman cannot keep herself in check.
Yeah.
Joy, you just described my 3 sisters over my other 10 brothers. Thank you.
But excuse me,
David?
it's just a little bit deeper than that, because we're talking about a brain disease and not bad behavior. And that's where the issue is, the stigma of the brain disease. And so if you're a seasoned adult and you have a history, your family, your neighborhood, your community is already has the OG with bad behavior, and it's no discussion of the disease and no discussion of this. These are the motivational things to produce harm reduction for seniors that are going to continue with their behavior because of all the previous slides that you shared. Thank you.
Hey, Charlie, good seeing you.
That's why I'm here. I'm going to see you.
A long time no see, and I'm glad you brought up a very important word or 2 words, harm reduction. Okay, because we're going to talk about that. David?
Just writing down harm reduction because I love it.
Yeah, yeah.
It's fascinating. One of my best relationships was one of my worst relationships. It took over 2 years to recognize that the person I was involved with as a female, as a teacher, as what appeared on the surface to be a healthy person. It took over 2 years to discover her alcohol. And part of it is because we didn't live together for a year. But oh my God, I could not, the only way I could tell that she was drunk was, and I don't know how much it took, but she would slur, she would move into this kind of baby, childlike voice and attitude. And the biggest one was she would stumble and fall. And it was absolutely terrifying. And it was absolutely unbelievably surprising. I couldn't smell it. I didn't see the bottles until I started looking. And when I addressed it and said, look, I'm in recovery. I can't be with you if you can't do this. And she couldn't do it. And it was so just, I had no idea how well we hide our things. And it sucked. And I don't know if that's because of the stigma. I don't know if that's because of how society has suggested we function. I do recognize what Charlene said and what Joy said. Even in the discovery of recovery and addiction and relationships, we don't recognize one, the emotional and mental strength that women bring to our lives, our families, and they can still do it with a few nips, and you can't even tell. And it's just eye-opening.
Thank you for that, David.
Thanks, David.
Thank you for your advocacy.
Reggie, we need to address the group. We're having this extraordinary conversation, and we have more slides, so we're not going to be able to have, we're going to run out of time is what I'm saying. So with the group's permission, I'd like to continue the conversations. That seems to be so important at this time. And we're going to kind of jump ahead of some slides to make a few points and continue the conversation, if that's okay with the group. And if that's okay with you, Reggie.
Sure.
All right, very good. So let's move on.
Could I just suggest if there's if everybody agrees that we go a little over, we see all the slides and we try to move through it because it's so compelling.
Okay, we'll do that then.
I was going to give, thank you, Kevin, because I was thinking when you were saying that, maybe we should give people a choice and maybe we vote on it or something like that. Because I know some people have time constraints.
Well, is there anybody who objects to it and who won't be able to stay?
All right, we can push through. Yes, hands up. Push through. Conversation.
Push through the conversation. It's very informative. Very good.
Okay, we're going to continue then, and we'll get us through as many slides as possible. Reggie, I'm going to kind of steer a little bit quicker.
Okay.
Here, why does alcohol affect older adults? You have to realize our bodies are shutting down, and they shut down for the last 30 years of our life. So there's a large effects on alcohol on the body, including increased sensitivity to alcohol. We do not metabolize it. Our bodies require much more dehydration. So much of alcohol in our medical prescriptions dehydrate us. We need to continue to hydrate, and it goes against the grain. We have health problems, and alcohol and substance use only exacerbates all of our health problems, whether it's diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, the list goes on. Alcohol and medications together do not mix. The number one fall for older adults in emergency rooms is falls. We talked about STDs. The rise in STDs in what group primarily is with older adults. The same group that has a rise in alcohol consumption and SUD substances. So medication interactions. This is a problem. Alcohol alters the metabolism. But here's a kicker. Look at that note. 30% of this 70 million population take 6 or more prescriptions medications every day. And I'm looking at the ones that I take for hypertension and a couple of other issues that I have. So it's true. Falls and accidents, number one issue. Overdoses. If I don't remember to take my medicine and I repeat it and I'm drinking, it's a problem. And everything I already have, this is kind of the icing on the cake that makes it even far worse, exacerbates the existing conditions. So, why are we concerned? Because we're dying quicker and sooner. Alcohol-induced death rates for 65s and older in the population from 2011 rose more than 18% from 2019 to 2020. That's a huge jump. Death rates from drug overdoses among people 65 and older tripled over the past 2 decades. 2.4 deaths in 2000 versus 8.8 in 2020. Faster rates of increase for men, obviously, than women because of probably greater usage. And now with fentanyl in the picture, it's only having a bigger impact on the older population. So we say that we're underserved, misdiagnosed, etc. Why? Well, let me tell you a few reasons why, and you've already started to talk about these.
And I love this picture. This picture says it all.
Asking for help is not easy for us to do as older adults. We have shame, we lack our finances, we don't want to go in for treatment, how can we pay for it? We lack insurance, other fears go on and on and on. Effective treatment requires an understanding of baby boomers. You don't understand us and I don't have your trust. And how do you begin to understand me if you don't and have not lived my experiences? Which is why your presence here today is so vitally important, because you are opening your mind to understanding people and our experiences that you've not experienced yourself. Effective treatment also requires an awareness of life experiences and other issues that affect that. Alzheimer's, loneliness, dementia, all of those things. We're also overlooked because we're being misdiagnosed. I think I have a problem with my balance, a sense of balance, because of my depression medication. I'm not telling you, the doctor, that I'm drinking or using marijuana or cannabis. I have chronic pain. Oh, your pain is just because you're getting old. It's normal. How many times has your doctor said, don't worry about it, you're getting old? And if he doesn't have all the facts, how can he treat you properly? But there's things we should be looking for. Additional new chronic pain, changes in appetite or weight. These are all things that we as people working in the recovery field should be aware of with older adults. Do I sound passionate about this topic?
Yeah, you sound passionate, but it's all good.
Forgive me about this. So we can at least start advocating for adults. How do we do that? We look at individuals. 70 million of us, we're not all alike. And not all of us have a substance use disorder or alcohol problem or challenge. Be respectful. Learn to hear us. Learn to treat us in a non-ageist or demeaning way. Focus on our strengths, but look at us as a whole person. We need things other than help with our SUD and alcohol issues. We need help with family support. We need home and apartment safety to live. We need our medical needs taken care of. We need cognitive health. We need to have mobility. We need personal hygiene. We need to be addressed with meal preparation, nutrition. We need social interaction. We also need to be respected. Ageism is the #1 last socially accepted prejudice in this country. Kirsten Weir, an American Psychology Association publication, said 82% of people experience one or more forms of everyday ageism in their day-to-day lives.
Ed, I'm sorry to jump in. Can you go back one slide to that list of 8 things? Great. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Ageism.
Okay.
Thank you. 80% of us experience ageism every day. How does that break out? 65% are exposed to ageist messages. Advertising. Look, you can be anything you want in this life, in this world. Do not be old. Marketing says it's all about youth, vitality, energy, all of that. We face it every day. Ageism is also in interpersonal actions. You're looking for the last coin to pay at the grocery lineup, and someone's tapping his foot. Why are you taking so long? Come on, move it along, move it along. I'm driving down the road, beep, beep. And they tear around and they flip you off. They're in a hurry. Where are you? Come on. We have things to do. What are you doing? 36 of it is internalized. It's how you look at me. It's how you ignore me. It's how you dismiss me. It's like, oh, it's a boomer. Okay, boomer. See ya. Being old is something to avoid. Never mind that if we have the, God willing, good fortune to live a long life, demeaning and dismissive stereotypes about harming us all will always exist unless we change it. And we do have rights. To finish it off, we have rights, we have protections. 1965, President Lyndon Johnson, signed into law a part of the Great Society Initiative. It was the Older Adults Act. What did that Older Adult Act do for us? For older adults, it was life-saving. It went through some changes, and it ensured equal opportunity for all adults for an income in retirement. It provided the best possible physical and mental health services. It ensured suitable housing for older adults. It's access to restorative and long-term care, which did not always exist, ensuring access to employment opportunities when necessary, and also age discrimination against age and disability. However, here's something important. In 2006, they did an additional addendums, and in 2006, they provided assistance for older adults for substance use treatment. Are we aware of that? Are we not advocating for them? The title gave states the option to create programs that address substance use in older people, and in addition to other health concerns that did not exist before. So get out there and fight for us. How do we advocate as we close? And then I'm going to open it up for discussion. You already started. You already started, so thank you. You're interested. You became informed. And you're educating yourself, as we all must. Because if we don't take care of our older adults, how do we take care of ourselves? Because at some point in time, we will be older adults. It was stated, if we want to take care of older adults, we have to take care of our children, because they will become older adults and we will train them how to take care of older adults. Speak their language. Words matter. Treat them with respect. Earn their trust. And you will earn their trust by listening to them. They have so much wisdom. So much wisdom, but we don't know it because we're only focused on what is of interest to us and what we need to do for them. But that's putting the cart before the horse. If we listen to them, they will tell us how to help them. And the first thing will be respect me, see me, and we can work together. I'm not going to go into outpatient care with a group of young kids who are going to look at me cross-eyed. Know my rights. I have rights. We all do. Fight for us. Show empathy. You don't have to understand, but you can empathize. And with empathy comes the ability for change. Change becomes possible. As we said, the greatest Empathy is not saying, hey, don't worry, it's going to be okay, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. True empathy says, you're in deep trouble. Let's acknowledge your trouble that you're in so we can change it. That's true empathy. So for today, if you discovered we need some help here as older adults, you're on a good path. So act. Theodore Roosevelt quote, one of my favorites. Hey, in any moment that you have to make a decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing, right? The worst thing you can do is nothing. It's time to do the right thing, folks. So hopefully, all you young ones out there, when you look in the mirror, I hope you will find a caring and loving world reflected back to you. Okay. Reggie, thanks
So
for being.
I think we should go back to, since we have a few minutes for questions, I'm
Yep.
sure people had questions during that talk. Ageism, you know, maybe we can start from there. I was reading something the other day, and the former DNC, Democratic National Committee vice chair, his name is David Hogg, and he gained notoriety during the, you know, the shootings, the mass shootings, and he stepped into politics, but he said some kind of insensitive things about older people, and he's no longer the vice chair of the DNC. But I'll leave that there, and see if anyone has any questions or comments.
We have a few minutes.
Just say-
Sorry for the rush ending.
Charlene, do you have your hand up?
Yeah, I wanted to just say something that you were talking about towards the end, especially with children, because I had my oldest child in my 20s. However, my son is middle-aged now. And so as you're a children adult, and then I become like this precious doll that may break at any moment. And I really love the way they care for me. However, as my children have adulted, it's like they think that I no longer think for myself, that they can come up with better solutions for me. They say I should a lot, as opposed to listening more. And so one of the things that I find that's, as a seasoned woman who is really has a place of reverence within her family, that is so important to get your story out to your family, to let your family know what your history is, what you've done, and accept it or not accept it. But yeah, it's very interesting, and I'm loving it. I must say, I'm loving being a seasoned woman. I'm loving the point that I am at my life. It's wonderful when you no longer have to worry about going to work, income, bills. You just live. And yeah, I've earned.
I just wrote down that terminology, Charlie,
Yes.
seasoned woman.
Yes.
I like that.
Yes, because there's nothing old about me. And that is something else that, yeah, I mean, my age is old, my body is older, but I just don't do things as rapidly. And
thank you. Listen, we
yeah,
hardly have any time left.
Sure.
Yeah,
Kevin?
thanks. Wow. I just want to say, wow, Ed and Reggie. Yeah, I consider myself an activist in this space. I'm studying to be a recovery coach, but I'm also in the midst of studying to be a health and wellness coach, certified national board certified health wellness coach, yada yada. Because of this, and this is a real target I was sober for 28 years. I relapsed for 5. And now I'm sober again for 4. I didn't lose everything I learned in those 28 years, but but when I went out again for 5 years, I was experiencing all the kinds of things you're talking about: health issues, losses, what I'll term as life quakes. They happen at a certain age. I'm a boomer. I'm in the last 2 years of boomers. I have 2 Gen Z daughters who are both musicians. So I'm really in this space. I've been studying it. And I just want to say that your presentation was so thorough with data and all of the most salient facts. I'm really appreciative, and I'm going to be in touch. That's a promise.
Very good.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think that's, Travis, I think we ran out of time here. We're actually over 1 minute. I apologize.
1 minute.
1 whole minute. How about that?
Shame on us. All right. Thank you, everybody.
This has been good. Yeah.
Good to see you all. Bye-bye.
Take
Thank
care.
you,
Thanks.
Edwin. Thank you, Edwin. Thank you, Reggie.
Okay,
Appreciate the
everybody.